You know that feeling of waking up and like nothing is technically wrong, but everything just feels a little heavy.
Oh, absolutely. Just that sort of baseline drag.
Right. You're trying to think through this persistent layer of mental fog, and your stress levels are just kind of humming right below the surface.
Yeah, and honestly, that's exactly why so many of us fall for those targeted ads promising, a miraculous brain hack in a bottle.
Exactly. Which is why, for today's deep dive, we're actually looking at the clinical data behind one of the biggest ones on the market right now. It's called Happy Saffron Plus.
Right, from BrainMD.
Yeah. And our mission today is really to figure out if this doctor-developed formula is actually a shortcut to better mood and memory, or, if it's just a very expensive bottle of brightly colored spices.
And it's important we look at this because it's the vulnerability of that exact mental state you just described that the supplement industry really preys upon.
Oh, for sure.
Because the market is just absolutely flooded with what manufacturers actually call label appeal.
Label appeal, like just making the bottle look good.
Well, sort of. But it's more about the ingredients. It's the practice of dusting a giant vat of capsules with this mathematically insignificant amount of some trendy ingredient.
Oh, wow. So just like pixie dust?
Exactly, pixie dust. And they do it just so the legal department can print the name of that trendy herb on the bottle.
That is so shady.
Yeah.
But from our sources, Happy Saffron Plus operates on kind of the opposite premise, right?
Yeah, it does. What makes it worth analyzing is that it actually relies on highly absorbable forms of specific compounds, and they're calibrated to the exact doses used in double-blind clinical trials.
Okay, so if we are going to look under the hood of this specific formula, I think we have to start with the architect.
Definitely.
It's formulated by BrainMD, which is Dr. Daniel Amen's company, and he's a pretty prominent psychiatrist who built his career heavily around SPECT brain imaging.
Right, literally looking at the blood flow and activity patterns in the physical brain.
Yeah, so the blueprint for this supplement is coming from a clinical psychiatric perspective rather than, just a generic wellness brand looking for a quick cash grab.
And that background in brain imaging fundamentally changes the approach to the formulation.
How so?
Well, the core philosophy here is what they call brain-directed nutrition. It operates on the idea that you can't optimize behavior or mood if the physical hardware of the brain is just starving for raw materials.
I mean, that makes sense on paper, but I have to push back a little right out of the gate here.
Okay, go for it.
If someone is a practicing psychiatrist, analyzing brain scans and treating real cognitive distress, why formulate a plant-based supplement? I mean, why not just stick to standard targeted pharmaceuticals that we know alter neurochemistry?
That's a fair question. But the goal of a formula like this isn't to aggressively override the central nervous system the way an acute pharmaceutical does.
Right, it's not a heavy intervention.
Exactly. Our sources frame this as targeted, non-pharmaceutical support for mild to moderate issues. Like a standard SSRI, for example, forces serotonin to stay in the synaptic cleft by blocking its reabsorption.
It's like a chemical blockade.
Yeah, a blockade. This formulation, conversely, is about providing the brain with the precise precursors and botanical modulators it needs to regulate itself naturally.
So it's nudging the system toward homeostasis rather than forcing it into a specific state.
You got it. It's giving the body the tools to do the work.
Okay, so let's break down exactly how it does that nudging. Because it's marketed as a 3-in-1 engine, right? Targeting mood, memory, stress resilience, and even sexual function.
Which, I know, sounds like a lot.
It does. It sounds dangerously close to that multivitamin shotgun approach where a company just throws everything at the wall to see what sticks.
Right. But if you look at the clinical data, this formula actually hinges entirely on just 3 specific heavy-hitting ingredients.
And the headliner is Affron, right? Which is a highly specific saffron extract dosed at 30 milligrams.
Yeah, and the clinical data behind that specific 30 milligram number is really fascinating.
Because it's not just ground up flowers from the grocery store.
Exactly. Affron isn't just ground up saffron flower. It is a highly concentrated standardized extract. In the clinical trials evaluating saffron for mood and anxiety support, the effective therapeutic dose was consistently pinpointed at 28 milligrams per day.
So providing 30 milligrams ensures the formulation easily clears that therapeutic threshold.
Precisely. And in the largest clinical trial to date on saffron and mood, 72% of the participants taking Affron experienced meaningful mood improvement in just 5 weeks.
Wow, 72%. That's huge.
It really is. And it achieves this by modulating key neurotransmitters, specifically optimizing the availability of serotonin and dopamine.
You know, a lot of people hear saffron and immediately think of the kitchen pantry.
Oh, yeah, the spice rack.
Right. But if you're dealing with chronic stress, you can't just eat a giant delicious bowl of paella every night and expect to cure your anxiety, right? The culinary spice is a totally different beast.
Yeah, you could eat a bucket of culinary saffron and get zero clinical benefit if it was harvested or processed incorrectly.
Because it's so fragile.
Exactly. With a raw food spice, the bioactive compounds, specifically safranol and crocinin, which drive the mood-altering effects, they degrade incredibly quickly when exposed to light, heat, or oxygen.
So by the time it's in your food, it might be inert.
Yeah, you have absolutely no idea what dose of the active chemistry you're actually ingesting. Standardization is the entire ballgame here.
Right, making sure every pill is exactly the same.
It ensures you're getting the precise chemical profile proven to work in the lab consistently every single day. There's even a compelling clinical trial where this specific extract was tested on adolescents with mild to moderate anxiety.
Oh, really? On teens?
Yeah. It led to highly significant improvements in their internalizing symptoms, those invisible, inward-facing struggles like rumination and withdrawal, along with notable drops in depression scores.
So the baseline of evidence is surprisingly broad across different age groups.
It really is.
Okay, so the saffron is modulating the serotonin and dopamine, handling that immediate day-to-day mood regulation. But for those neurotransmitters to actually function optimally, the physical hardware of the brain needs protection from inflammation, right?
Exactly. Which brings us to why they paired it with the second core ingredient.
Long Vita curcumin, dosed at 400 milligrams. Now, we all know standard turmeric has a massive bioavailability problem.
Oh yeah, your body just flushes it right out.
Right. So how does this Long Vita version actually get into the brain?
Well, the blood-brain barrier is heavily lipid-based. You can think of it as this highly selective fatty bouncer protecting your brain from toxins in the bloodstream.
A fatty bouncer. I love that.
In standard raw turmeric powder, it gets turned away at the door every single time. It just cannot cross.
So what does Long Vita do differently?
It's a patented solid lipid formulation. By wrapping the active curcuminoids in a specific solid lipid matrix, it essentially puts on a disguise that allows it to slip right past that bouncer and enter the brain tissue directly.
That's incredibly clever.
And the resulting bioavailability is staggering. It absorbs roughly 285 times more efficiently than standard curcumin.
Wait, 285 times?
Yeah.
That completely changes the mechanics of what the root can do. And the specific pain point this targets isn't just joint pain, which is what most people use turmeric for.
Not at all.
It's targeting brain fog and age-related memory concerns. One study we looked at evaluating older adults taking this exact 400 milligram dose of Long Vita showed a 16% boost in working memory and sustained attention within 1 hour of ingestion.
Within 1 hour. It's crazy.
1 hour. That is a faster cognitive onset than a strong cup of cold brew coffee, but without the central nervous system spike, you know?
And it isn't just a fleeting stimulant effect like caffeine either. The acute focus in the short term is impressive. But the long-term structural protection is where the medical community really pays attention.
Because it's actually changing the brain over time.
Yeah. Research following older adults over an 18-month period on a highly bioavailable curcumin utilizing PT scans actually showed reduced brain amyloid and tau binding.
And just for context for the listener, those are the specific proteins that clump together and form the plaques heavily associated with long-term cognitive decline and Alzheimer's, correct?
Correct. They're essentially metabolic waste products that the brain fails to clear out properly.
So by reducing that binding, the highly bioavailable curcumin is acting as a neuroprotectant.
Exactly. Clearing the pathways so the neurons can continue firing efficiently.
All right, let's move to the third critical component, which kind of acts as the foundational support for the other two.
Zinc glycinate at 20 milligrams.
Yeah. I always look at zinc as the invisible stage crew of a massive theater production.
That is a great analogy.
Right. You absolutely never notice them when the play is running smoothly. But the second the lighting drops out or the sound system fails, you suddenly realize how crucial they are to the entire operation.
And pushing that theater analogy even further, zinc isn't just fixing the broken lights, it is actively synthesizing the DNA, the proteins, and the hundreds of enzymatic catalysts required to keep the actors alive on stage.
It's doing the heavy lifting.
Zinc is fundamentally tied to neurotransmitter synthesis. When your serum zinc levels drop, The biological machinery required to manufacture serotonin and dopamine basically grinds to a halt.
Which explains a lot of mood issues, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. The clinical data reveals a very stark link between low serum zinc levels and clinical anxiety and depression.
Wow.
There's fascinating research showing that people with clinical anxiety not only have notably lower overall zinc, but they have excessively high copper to zinc ratios compared to healthy controls.
Which honestly makes sense given our modern diets. I mean, we are often overloaded with certain trace minerals from fortified processed foods, while completely lacking the highly bioavailable zinc you'd get from things like oysters or high-quality red meat.
Exactly.
So by providing 20 milligrams of a highly absorbable glycinate form, you aren't just throwing a botanical Band-Aid on a bad mood, you're correcting an underlying deficiency in the machinery.
Right, and correcting that deficiency also has downstream effects on immune function, hormonal balance, and indirectly, that initial claim about libido support.
Right, because everything's connected.
It creates the necessary biological environment for the saffron and curcumin to actually do their specialized work. If your zinc levels are crashed, no amount of standardized saffron is going to optimize your serotonin. So your body literally lacks the basic building blocks to synthesize it.
That makes total sense. We also need to highlight the delivery mechanism itself here because the formula uses a clean label approach.
Yes, which is so important for a lot of people.
These are vegan capsules totally free of gluten, dairy, sugar, and nuts, containing only like a microscopic trace of non-GMO soy.
Yeah, very clean.
And if you're dealing with high sensitivities, autoimmune flare-ups, or navigating a complex elimination diet to figure out your brain fog, that peace of mind is monumental. You aren't unwittingly introducing new inflammatory triggers into your gut while actively trying to calm your neurochemistry down.
Exactly. And because these three ingredients have such highly specific biological mechanisms, altering lipid absorption at the blood-brain barrier, modulating neurotransmitter reuptake, and shifting enzymatic ratios, they're going to interact radically differently depending on an individual's unique neurochemistry.
So we really have to clearly qualify who this is actually built for.
We do.
Let's look at how this translates to a normal Tuesday for the ideal candidate. Like, who is the absolute sweet spot for Happy Saffron Plus?
Well, the clinical data and the user aggregate data point to someone dealing with mild to moderate low mood.
Mild to moderate, okay.
Right. It's for the person experiencing a baseline of daily grinding stress. They feel a bit emotionally blunted, or they're actively fighting through afternoon brain fog just to, send an email.
I think a lot of people listening can relate to that.
Definitely. But crucially, it is for the person who is willing to be patient and consistent. Botanical medicine does not flip a switch overnight.
Right, it's not a stimulant.
Exactly. While the curcumin might offer acute focus, the brand explicitly advises taking it for 1 to 3 full months to see the peak systemic benefits for mood regulation and stress resilience.
Okay, but I have to ask the hard, practical question here.
Go for it.
With all these clinical claims about modulating serotonin and dopamine and studies showing saffron performs incredibly well in double-blind trials, couldn't someone suffering from severe depression just buy a few bottles of this online instead of going through the overwhelming, expensive hassle of seeing a psychiatrist?
Absolutely not. And we really need to draw a very hard, definitive line right here. If you are experiencing severe clinical depression, suicidal ideation, or panic-level anxiety that physically stops you from functioning, this supplement is entirely inappropriate.
Good to know.
You require urgent professional medical care and likely intensive psychiatric intervention. A botanical extract, no matter how highly standardized, is simply not a replacement for acute crisis care.
That distinction can literally be life-saving, and there are several other specific groups who need to skip this formula entirely due to the active chemistry, right?
Yes, the contraindications are very strict. Pregnant women must avoid this entirely.
Because of the saffron?
Yes, high-dose saffron extract has been clinically shown to stimulate uterine contractions.
Yeah.
While a pinch of saffron in a restaurant meal is perfectly fine, a concentrated 30-milligram clinical dose is considered unsafe during pregnancy.
Wow, okay. What else?
Additionally, individuals diagnosed with bipolar disorder should strictly avoid it. Because the saffron actively modulates mood-enhancing neurotransmitters, it can inadvertently trigger excitability, rapid cycling, or hypomanic symptoms in a bipolar brain.
That makes sense. You don't want to push it too far in the other direction.
Right. And finally, if you have a known bleeding disorder, or you're currently taking prescribed blood thinners, blood pressure medication, or central nervous system sedatives, you must exercise extreme caution and consult your physician.
Because both curcumin and saffron have mild blood-thinning properties, right?
Exactly. And combining them with pharmaceutical thinners can be dangerous.
All right, so we've looked at the clinical trials, the highly controlled lab environments, and the rigid medical guidelines. But what actually happens when real human beings introduce this into their messy day-to-day lives?
Right. Reality versus the lab.
Let's move from the lab data to the living room and do a reality check on the actual user reviews.
The aggregate customer reviews actually provide a much-needed illuminating contrast to the pristine clinical data. Looking at the official site, the product holds a very strong 4.7-star rating out of roughly 720 reviews.
Yeah, and reading through that positive feedback, the themes are remarkably consistent. Users rarely talk about feeling, like, euphoric.
Right. It's not a high.
No. Instead, they use phrases like feeling more emotionally balanced and finding themselves less reactive to typical daily stressors like traffic or work deadlines. One user beautifully described the effect as having the mental cobwebs cleared without experiencing any of the jittery, anxious energy you'd get from slamming a massive dose of caffeine.
That's a great description.
They consistently call it a smooth lift in baseline motivation.
Which perfectly reflects the underlying biological mechanisms we just mapped out. The saffron is gently smoothing out the serotonin availability over the course of weeks, preventing those harsh emotional spikes and crashes, while the long vita curcumin is independently providing that clear working memory and immediate attention span.
But we have to look closely at the negative reviews and the actual cons of the product because there are some massive practical hurdles here.
Oh, definitely. It's not perfect.
First and foremost, the dosage schedule. The directions explicitly state to take 3 capsules a day, and they must be taken between meals.
Right. 3 capsules spaced out on an empty stomach.
For someone who is already struggling with mental fog, executive dysfunction, or low motivation, remembering to take a pill 3 separate times a day away from food sounds incredibly tedious and highly prone to failure.
It's a lot to ask.
It is. And then there is the cost. It sits at around $51.45 for a 90-capsule bottle. If you are adhering to the 3-a-day protocol, that is exactly a 1-month supply. Paying over $50 a month every single month is a premium investment.
The price tag and the rigorous dosage schedule are undeniable barriers to entry. But the physical side effects reported in the negative reviews are even more instructive.
What did they say?
A notable percentage of users report taking it for a full month and feeling absolutely no changes whatsoever.
Which is frustrating for $50.
Very. But from a neurological standpoint, it's entirely expected. Individual neurochemistry varies wildly, and if your low mood isn't rooted in a serotonin imbalance or neuroinflammation, this specific tool just won't fix the problem.
But some of the negative reviews reported active discomfort too. Things like mild digestive upset and headaches. Headaches from a mood-boosting supplement seems completely counterproductive.
Yeah, mild headaches are a known, documented potential side effect of concentrated saffron extracts as the brain adjusts to the shifting neurotransmitter levels.
Oh, okay.
But more concerningly, a small subset of users reported feeling significantly more anxious, wired, and suffering from racing thoughts after taking it.
Wait, really? From something supposed to calm you down?
Yeah. While saffron has a calming, regulating effect on the vast majority of human brains, in a small subset of the population which researchers suspect could be related to individual histamine intolerance or unique excitatory pathways in the brain, it can actually have a highly activating, anxiety-provoking effect.
That is wild.
It's a stark reminder that just because medicine comes from a plant doesn't mean it isn't potent medicine. It demands respect and careful observation.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's say you fit the ideal profile perfectly. You have that mild to moderate brain fog. You're not pregnant. You are highly disciplined and willing to set 3 alarms on your phone every day to take the capsules on an empty stomach, and you have the budget.
Right.
How does Happy Saffron Plus actually stack up against the rest of the market? Let's walk down the supplement aisle for a second. If saffron is the magic ingredient, why shouldn't you just jump on a massive discount site and buy a generic bottle of saffron extract for $10?
It comes down to standardization and the power of biological synergy. With a $10 generic bottle, you have absolutely zero guarantee regarding the dose of the active saffronal compounds.
That could be useless.
You might be swallowing entirely inert, oxidized flower powder. Furthermore, the generic saffron product completely lacks the cognitive lipid-crossing support of the long vita curcumin, and it completely lacks the enzymatic support of the zinc.
What about taking a curcumin supplement?
Well, conversely, if you go buy a high-quality, curcumin-only supplement, it is almost certainly calibrated and formulated to target physical joint inflammation and arthritis, not optimized across the blood-brain barrier for mood support.
Ah.
The entire value proposition of Happy Saffron Plus is the very specific synergistic combination of these three heavily researched ingredients in one single protocol.
Got it. Let's run through some rapid-fire actionable tips before we wrap up. We know the usage is 3 daily between meals. What about the dosage for kids? The clinical data mentions children ages 4 to 18 can take 1 capsule per 40 pounds of body weight, up to a maximum of 3 capsules.
Yes, but, and this is a massive non-negotiable, but only after consulting directly with a pediatrician or adolescent health professional.
Right. Do not start introducing neuroactive botanical compounds to a developing brain without a doctor actively monitoring the situation.
That cannot be overstated. Regarding the timeline for actual results, you might expect an acute noticeable bump in focus and working memory within a couple of hours, thanks to the long Vita curcumin.
Right, the fast-acting part.
However, for the Saffron to truly modulate your mood, stabilize your neurotransmitters, and build actual stress resilience, you need to commit to the protocol for a full 3 months.
Good to know. And if you do decide to try it, you can purchase it directly from BrainMD or on authorized storefronts like iHerb, Target, and Walmart. But the critical warning here is to avoid those too cheap to be real deals on random third-party reseller websites.
Oh, absolutely.
Counterfeit supplements are a massive, dangerous issue in the e-commerce space right now. Scammers will mimic the label perfectly, but fill the capsules with cheap fillers or even heavy metals. You do not want to ingest fraudulent, contaminated pills when you are actively trying to heal your brain.
And if you truly want to maximize the efficacy of a premium supplement like this, you have to pair it with synergistic lifestyle habits. Taking a highly calibrated neurosupplement while sleeping 4 hours a night, enduring chronic stress, and eating a highly processed diet is like putting premium aviation fuel into a car with 4 flat tires.
The engine might run a little hotter, but you still aren't going anywhere.
Exactly. You have to pair it with adequate restorative sleep, regular cardiovascular exercise to promote blood flow, and a nutrient-dense diet rich in omega-3 fatty acids. The supplement is a powerful catalyst, but it is not a cure-all.
So let's bring it all together for the final verdict. Happy Saffron Plus is a scientifically sound, rigorously doctor-formulated combination of clinically backed ingredients. If you fall into that mild to moderate category of chronic stress or low mood, and you can stomach both the premium $50 a month price tag and the slightly annoying 3-capsule-a-day schedule, this appears to be a highly effective, specialized tool to help clear those mental cobwebs and raise your baseline resilience.
It is a robust, well-designed formula. But analyzing all of this clinical data leaves me with a rather profound question to consider.
Oh, what's that?
If a simple, highly precise combination of a flower extract, a root spice, and a basic trace mineral can so dramatically alter a person's daily mood, their working memory, and their fundamental resilience to stress. Let me rephrase that. If those 3 things can change so much about how we feel, how much of what we consider to be our fixed, unchangeable personality and our baseline anxieties, our chronic lack of motivation, our quick temper is actually just a reflection of the micronutrients we're chronically missing?